Good morning, everybody. So, I've noticed more than not that I wake up during the night and I always want to have a bowl of cereal, or I'm like, I wonder if we have fresh cookies, or I'm like, I wonder what I have today, or if I even have the money this week to go get groceries. But I'm always eating during the night, so I wake up and I never have breakfast because I'm not hungry. I spent the whole night eating more than sleeping. So, so one of the patients that I take care of also wakes up a lot during the night, and I work a knock shift, so I'm up with her all night, and she's like, oh, do you guys have pudding today? No, what about the cookies, or what kind of sandwiches do you got? And sometimes it happens so much that she forgets that she already had a snack, and she'll wake up an hour later and be like, oh, I'm hungry, what do you have? And I'm like, no, you already had a snack, and it's come to a point where she'll throw up during the night because she wants to eat so much, and sometimes we can't stop her. So my patient suffers from Alzheimer's disease. So today I want to talk to you guys about Alzheimer's disease, and I want to do that by highlighting the way that it develops, progresses, and ways that we are researching to try and develop full-blown Alzheimer's dementia. So I'm going to start by showing you guys how it all started.
There you go.
Okay, so why should we be interested in Alzheimer's and be informed? Well, 5.5 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's in 2017. That was the latest report, and of those, every 66 seconds someone develops Alzheimer's disease. So that's a pretty big number, A lot of these people, are living with Alzheimer's, and it's going up and up more and more. We've noticed that in the past years, more people are dying from Alzheimer's than they are heart-related diseases. So, it all started, the National Institute of Aging, so it all started with Dr. Alzheimer. He had a patient who died from irregular mental illness. He didn't know why, she just died, and when she died, he looked at her brain and saw that she had lots of clumps, and he was like, what is this, what's going on? So he looked into it, and he discovered Alzheimer's disease. So that's what it was named after. The first point I want to make is how it develops, and it develops, people didn't really know how it happened at first, so we started looking at the brain and we saw clumps, and we were like, what's going on exactly? And we saw that the brain begins to develop what are called amyloid plaques and tau tangles. So basically all the neurons in the brain begin to tangle up and they begin to shrink. So the brain changes from regular size to a very dramatic kind of just dried up sponge. Like, I don't know if you guys ever look under your sink and you see that old sponge that you guys threw down there and it's gross and shrunk, kind of like that. So I have pictures here. This is what a regular healthy brain looks like up at the top, and once it's shrunken in the severe stages of Alzheimer's, it becomes much smaller. And you can see there the tau tangles and the amyloid plaques and how they look. So you can see how it kind of just disintegrates and how it just becomes a big clump. So that's the brain. We have another comparison, so you can see more of a bigger size scale of how it all changes. Most of the Alzheimer's development that we see causing Alzheimer's are happening in the hippocampus and so in the hippocampus and also the amygdala. So of the 5.5 million people suffering from Alzheimer's disease, we see that 2/3 are women. So most women are more prone to get Alzheimer's. Half of Hispanics make up for half of the people more likely to develop Alzheimer's, and about all over the place. And then whites are more likely to develop. Hispanics are about half as likely, and then 2/3 are women, like I said. And I think, so progression-wise, there's 3 main stages according to the Alzheimer's Association in which Alzheimer's develops and progresses. Those are the mild, moderate, and severe. During the mild stages of Alzheimer's, most people will have just very minor memory problems. So it's all short-term memory. So it's things like, they don't remember where they place their keys, or maybe they're like, oh, I don't remember if I paid my bills today, or, stuff like that. So just nothing too big. The moderate, it's bigger memory problems, like they get lost on their way going home. They don't remember when they have to pay their bills, or they forget to pay their bills, they mishandle their money. So, they're like, what, today I'm gonna go on a shopping spree, and they spend all their money. things like that, which to some people don't seem very common, but once you look at a bigger scale, it's things that really, like, you shouldn't be getting lost when you're on your way home. Severe is more, it's dealing more with the brain. That's when all the tangles have developed. They're all spread through the brain, and at this point, they can't care for themselves. They have a lack of judgment, their conscience begins to fail, and they have visual problems, all this sorts of stuff. Once they get into the late stages of severe Alzheimer's is when you see that they spend a lot of time in bed, and that's when the body starts to break down. They no longer really are all the way there. So right now, in order to try and prevent full-blown dementia in a lot of patients that people do see, Dr. can't pronounce his name. Dr. Zahir Ismail, he's a neuropsychiatrist at the University of Calgary. He's saying a lot of people think that symptoms and signs are just a stealth problem. They're not. It's something that we should be looking out for a lot. So he's saying it's not a stealth problem. He's saying it's something that has to be looked at more in research. The Alzheimer's Association and the National Institute of Aging both have paired up, and they've come up with a 32-question questionnaire to try and see in people, whose families do come in. They're like, oh, I think my, mom or my dad has Alzheimer's. They're trying to prevent it to be full blown and try to help these people out. And he's saying, also Nina Silverberg of the National Institute of Aging has said, we need to look at, it's not just memory like most people think, but it's also behavior. So these people's behavior changes very dramatically sometimes. We have patients that, you wouldn't think have problems with Alzheimer's because when I first started working there, I was like, there's nothing wrong with them, But so some people do, it's more memory. Some people you can tell right away because they're combative and, they see you and they don't know who you are. They don't remember who their family is, they're scared all the time. So people like them are trying to research ways that we can find a way to not prevent, because you can't prevent the brain from shutting down, although they have seen that most people with a higher education are less prone to develop Alzheimer's or less prone to have full-blown dementia related to Alzheimer's. So in conclusion, there is no prevention, obviously, but it is something that we have to be aware of, not just look out for like, oh, they don't remember things, but has their behavior changed? Are they forgetting to do things? Maybe they don't enjoy activity that they used to like, maybe they used to love going and feeding the ducks at the park, and now they're like, no, ducks are dirty, so things like that. But overall, there is a statistic that states that 1 in 10 people develop Alzheimer's disease, so that's 10% of people over the age of 65, and then there's also 200,000 people under the age of 65 that have younger onset of Alzheimer's, so that's a big number, and there's more and more people who, are dying from Alzheimer's, so just be aware. Thank you. Yeah. A lot of people may say like 1 ounce of either alcohol, softening, like that. No, yeah, it's supposed to be like 1 ounce of it's coffee, water, alcohol. Yeah. Don't become an alcoholic, but yeah.
All right, Quentin, what did you think?
Overall, I thought it was pretty good. The intro was pretty interesting, but it kind of, I don't know, it was hard to follow for a little bit. I couldn't see where you were going with it too well. But it was overall pretty good. And then I didn't hear a outline of where you were going to be going in the beginning. And then your visual aids were pretty good, but some of you seemed to get mixed up with which ones you were explaining, and there's obviously like technical difficulty with how it worked. And then there was one part where you seemed not know where you were in your speech. I'm not sure what happened, but you were like just looking at your stuff. There's good eye contact, except for the parts where like you had to read some stuff, but it wasn't a lot, so it was okay. And your conclusion was really good. I like the way you tied it all together.
All right. Those seem like good comments for the most part. I thought that you had an interesting personal story as a detention device. Your topic was clearly identified. You've got a good justification that you present early on, and you've got statistical information to support that at the beginning. I do think you could use a little bit more of a preview, but I knew generally that what the subject was. In the body of the speech, it seems like it's organized chronologically at first, and actually individual points also seem to be chronological in nature, so that's pretty straightforward. It's less clear when you get to the last point what your structure was there. It felt a little random at that point. And part of that is, I think, that you're jumping around with your visuals, and part of it is that some of the visuals aren't explained very well in that last section. As a consequence, I'm not sure what the whole point of that last section was. Early on, there were several good source citations. Like I said, I thought that you did a good job with the justification. I was a little bit confused with some of the statistical information. I know you've got the bar chart there, and I don't think it gets explained very well, and it seems like it's at odds with another point of your argument, or not, your presentation, where you said it's 1 in 10 people get this, and I'm going, well, wait a second, I thought according to the bar graph, it's 25% who get it in some groups and 30% in other groups, and that's certainly more than 1 in 10, so there's a little inconsistency there. There's probably an explanation for what that inconsistency is, but I couldn't tell you what that is based on the speech that I heard. The visuals are okay. To me, the one that worked the best were the different stages of Alzheimer's, where you identified what kinds of behaviors or actions people would be engaged in at any given point, kind of what the symptoms, so to speak, would be like at any given point. That was the clearest. We had a similar kind of issue with the brain that we'd had in an earlier speech, where there's a lot of information there that you're not using, and probably that could have been widened out. Then there was another image that talked about the different kinds of the cells, and you had technical terms for them. I can't remember what they are right now. But one's obviously the one that's healthy, and there's another one that's not very healthy. And you kind of presented like you can clearly see what's going on. I'm going, well, I see that there's a difference, but I don't know what that difference is and why it's important. So it felt like you were kind of skimped over that information. The presentation is usually solid. Like I said, you got a little distracted by your own visuals a couple of times, jumping back and forth and not quite sure where you were going. I could not tell that last picture with the two people and then the one person. I'm going, okay, now is this the doctor that you were talking about? Is this somebody who is there with their family member who is got Alzheimer's? And I didn't know what that was about because you didn't really give us any reference to it. And I assumed at first that it was the doctor that you were talking about at that point. And then another doctor's name came up, and I thought, well, maybe that's the other doctor. Or maybe this is a guy with his mother who's suffering from Alzheimer's. I don't know. And I don't know what that picture, you don't need the picture in the first place, but once I've got it, at least I'd like to know what it is I'm looking at. And that felt a little bit confusing there at the end. All right, thank you.